I ask all who are able to rise for the reading of the gospel. The Holy Gospel for this Sunday is written in Luke, the 12th chapter, beginning with the 22nd verse. Jesus said to his disciples, "Therefore I tell you, do not be anxious about your life, what you will eat, nor about your body, what you will put on. For life is more than food, and the body is more than clothing. Consider the ravens. They neither sow nor reap. They have neither storehouse nor barn, and yet God feeds them. Of how much more value are you than the birds? And which of you, by being anxious, can add a single hour to his span of life? If then you are not able to do as small a thing as that, why are you anxious about the rest? Consider the lilies, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin. Yet I tell you, even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. But if God so clothes the grass, which is here today, in the field today, and tomorrow is thrown into the oven, how much more will he clothe you, O you of little faith? And do not seek what you are to eat and what you are to drink, nor be worried. For all the nations of the world seek these things, and your Father knows that you need them. Instead, seek his kingdom, and these things will be added to you. Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Sell your possessions and give to the needy. Provide yourselves with money bags, and do not grow old, with a treasure in the heavens that does not fail, where no thief approaches and no moth destroys. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also." Here ends the gospel reading.
Thanks be to God.
You may be seated. We'll continue with our sermon hymn. Verses 1 and 4. 1 and 4 only. Verses chosen for the message today are taken first from the Old Testament reading, Genesis 15. "And he, Abraham, believed the Lord, and he counted it to him as righteousness." And also from Hebrews chapter 11, the famous faith chapter. "By faith Sarah herself received power to conceive even when she was past the age, since she considered him faithful who had promised." And one final verse for our consideration this morning, 2 Corinthians 5 verse 7 says that we are to walk by faith and not by sight. Well, Hebrews 11 is God's Hall of Fame, isn't it? It's called the Faith chapter. It talks about men and women of God who trusted not in their own strength and in their own abilities, but in the promises of God, and we're rewarded, because when God makes a promise, he keeps it. That's not only true for the matriarchs and patriarchs of biblical times, it is true for us today. I happened to catch Jerry Rice's acceptance speech in the NFL Football Hall of Fame yesterday. Did anybody else see that besides me? Okay. Well, Jerry Rice is considered by many the greatest wide receiver to ever play NFL football, and of course he should be familiar to people in this area because he played many years for the San Francisco 49ers. Do we have any 49er fans? Okay. All right, there I got some hands. So I was listening to Jerry Rice's acceptance speech, and I found something interesting in what he said. He said what drove him, he had a work ethic. Everybody said that Jerry Rice had a work ethic that was amazing. And he said whether the 49ers won the Super Bowl or not, he would take 2 weeks off and then go right back into training. His training regimen was astounding. And he said what drove him was the fear of failure. The fear of failure. And he went back and he talked about his upbringing, where he helped his father lay bricks. And he said he didn't want to let his father down. He didn't want to fail his father. And that carried on into his football career. He did not want to disappoint his coaches, his teammates. And so what drove him for 20 years, he said for 20 years, to accomplish the things that he did was a fear of failure. And then as he went on in his speech, he said the only thing he regretted was that he wasn't able to enjoy it, because he was constantly worried about failing, constantly worried about disappointing his coaches and his teammates. Despite all his success, he was unable to enjoy his football career. I was amazed. I was amazed. So, here's the good news for us. When we talk about God's Hall of Fame, which we read about in Hebrews 11, our making God's Hall of Fame, our being people of faith, does not depend on our strength. It does not depend on our abilities, because on our own, we do not have the ability or the strength to follow Jesus Christ with our lives and to give him glory. But the good news is, it depends on God's promises, his strength, his ability, his resurrection from the dead, his resurrection power in our lives, his gift of the Holy Spirit to us, which is ours for the asking on a daily basis. That's the good news. Because the resurrected Jesus Christ is here with us this morning, and he is here to help us and to strengthen, to be people of faith, to walk by faith and not by sight. Consider Abraham. Consider Abraham. Abraham, as we read in the Old Testament reading for today, had not been given an heir, and he's talking to God about this.